Scripture actually emerged, in some sense, in Asia, depending on how you draw those boundaries. And certainly, it emerged in contexts that have important similarities to the Asian church right now. A great example of this is from the Old Testament, exploring the Old Testament in Asia, where there's an essay about how Israel was this minority group, a tiny fraction of the wider population, sent on mission, called by God, designed to be salt and light, and yet did that through a lot of challenges, through a lot of persecution, through a lot of opposition, and still had to bear witness faithfully to the one true God. Well, that's exactly the situation that the Asian church has found itself in for almost its whole life. And so when Asian Christians read the Old Testament and Asian scholars look at the mission of Israel, they have unique perspective on what it means for Israel to carry out its mission and how that actually gives us a vision for mission today. That's just one example. There are all kinds of other examples in the Old Testament about how, for example, the people of Israel are called to be people who serve one God among many gods. And that's, again, also the situation in Asia. Asian Christians largely learn through narrative, through story, and so they have a special and unique perspective to help us understand the vast majority of the Old Testament, which is story. In all these important ways, exploring the Old Testament in Asia helps us read the text better, makes the text come alive, and it also does something important. It helps the Asian church have a renewed vision for its own calling and mission in the world. Let me talk about exploring the New Testament in Asia. The New Testament, of course, emerges in the Greco-Roman era. It's a little different in many ways, but many of the challenges that the Asian church faces are the ones that the New Testament Christians faced. Things like persecution from both government and from those in society. And we have a great essay from a Chinese scholar looking at that question exactly and trying to understand how does the Asian context help us see that more clearly in Scripture, and how does Scripture speak back into the Asian context to give us vision for how to handle that. I was really blessed by a fresh reading of the parable of the prodigal son in light of the reality of sort of filial, so father-son expectations in Asia as well as in the ancient world. And I found that article to be just so helpful to giving me a fresh reading of that parable that so many of us are so familiar with. So these books are packed full of those types of insights. And I think if you pick them up, you'll find they're really useful for that. They're great for courses. They're great for personal reading. Hope you'll take a look.